Matt Aguilar here from comicbook.com, and today I have the esteemed pleasure to talk to Anthony Starr of The Boys, otherwise known as Homelander. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am good. So everyone is pumped. I imagine you are too, for like fans to finally see what you guys have been working on.
Oh yeah, more than I think any other job. I think this is a really exciting season to come back to. We're all of us are chomping at the bit to get it out there.
Well, because you guys have been working on it for like since the end of last year, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we finished shooting at the end of last year, and we've been quietly, well, not so quietly, but just waiting for this virus number 2 to get dropped. And now, I mean, there's obviously some, a lot of post-production with a show like this. There's a lot of vis effects and a lot that needs to go on. So it's really been the process of the behind the scenes work going on. And then finally we got to see it. And honestly, we're very excited, really excited.
Well, fans are excited to see it. One of the things that Homelander specifically is responsible for one of the most creepy Mother's Day videos and compilations in a bit. Homelander had some very shocking and creepy moments in season 1. So, with Madeline Stillwell not being a part of the picture, obviously because of events that happened at the end of last season,
yes.
What can you tease about Homelander raising the crazy factor a little bit in season 2? And is there kind of someone else that takes the place of all that focus because Stillwell's gone?
Well, yeah, I mean, Homelander season 1 was very much about his place in the world. So he was really looking at building on who and what he was. Obviously, he wants to ascend to become some sort of self-realized god. And Stillwell, as much as she was a lovely mummy and there was a lot of affection and love, it's all about perspective, isn't it? But then he had to make a choice at the end of season 1 and made the choice that was all about him. So yeah, season 2 is about dealing with those repercussions. And as opposed to it going crazier, I think, smartly, Eric said very early on in the season 2 prep, he said, we're not trying to go bigger, we're trying to go deeper, which for a guy, I mean, because how can you top some of the things in season 1, right? I mean, that's pretty out there and there's some pretty hideous things that he does. So what we really, really focused on is trying to come up with some new angles and really figure out how this guy deals with the repercussions of what his actions in season 1. And I think as much as we tried to not go bigger, somehow it did. Bizarrely, we set out with, so that was the true north of the season. And it does fall into that, but it definitely was a much more internal journey in season 2. And it's really much more challenging as an actor and as a creative team to do that. But ultimately it was really rewarding and the results have been really good. And yes, of course, he is always going to be looking for a new mummy or maybe daddy, who knows, but definitely, it's life without Stillwell. And what does that mean? What do you do when you're on your own? And you've seen in the clips, you've seen some interesting feeding habits that he develops. And, I don't think I'm spoiling anything there. I think I've seen a lot on social media. People are kind of interested in what's going on with that. But, no, it's a really fun season, and it's really I'm really excited for people to see where we took the character.
No one wants to see a Homelander recipe book. Like, no one. Like, that does not need to be a thing. Like, we got...
I'm not sure. I know that if it wasn't me, I would definitely check it out. I would definitely have a look at that.
It is noteworthy. It'd probably be better than the Deep's calendar, even though that was A+.
I'm not sure that you could get better than Chase Crawford's butt in the calendar, but I mean, maybe a close second.
Well, and you actually, mentioned or hinted at a little bit, because we do get some new additions in season 2, and one of the big one is Giancarlo Esposito's Edgar, who we heard a lot about in season 1. He was always kind of this looming figure, but we never really got any up close stuff. What can you tease about what he brings to season 2 and how he shifts Homelander's world a bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, we come into season 2, and he's on a roll. You know, he's missing Stillwell, but he's taking control of he's become the master of his own universe. You know, and that let's call it the person running interference, or maybe just the interference that is Madeline Stillwell, has been removed. So now there's a direct line with Edgar, and of course, Homelander thinks that he's the most important player in the game, so to speak, but Edgar very much comes from a different angle, which is much more corporate. You know, he represents the big corporation, and he really puts Homelander into a very interesting position for a man that is, well, a superhero that is used to getting his own way and being so strong and in control. Edgar really throws the cat amongst the pigeons there, and it really sets old homie off on quite a bizarre trajectory, but it's a lot of fun. And, you know, he's so good as well. So just coming in and getting some scenes with him was just, it was a treat for me. And, you know, I think it'll be a treat for the fans as well.
Well, and, you know, it actually, now that we're talking about this does actually feel like a very different season for Homelander, because not only do you have Edgar kind of coming in and shaking things up, and his world's already a bit different, but then you have a new member of the Seven in Ayakashi Stormfront. And again, it felt like, you know, especially during the first season, where like everyone kind of reveres Homelander, one, because they're scared to die.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure if it's reverence or fear or some kind of mix, but yeah, I get it.
And so even more so than, you know, what we've seen from her character so far in the small teases is that, like, she doesn't really seem to come in with that. She doesn't seem to really care what anyone thinks. You know, how has been that dynamic so far in season 2 for you?
You know what? I mean, I sound like every suck-up actor that ever did an interview, don't I? But Ayakash is a little pint-sized dynamo, man. She's a force, and she's so sweet and nice, so that when she turns on the not so charming elements of the character, it's much more effective. And she's another really destabilizing force for Homelander, because she just doesn't give a shit. She doesn't have that reverence or fear or whatever you want to call it. She really, and she puts him on the spot straight away. I think that scene's already out there as well, so I'm not spoiling that. But, you know, she comes in on social media and just puts him right. She really throws him under the bus immediately, and it gets worse from there. And it's, but it's so much fun because she's such a complicated, funny, charming, despicable character, and it's just, you know, she's a match for Homelander. And so there's a lot of new challenges, and it's a really interesting the chemistry between the two is quite intense.
Well, and, you know, then at the end of last season, Homelander finds out that he has a son. And, you know, this character doesn't, I mean, I don't think anyone at the very beginning would have been like, oh, there's like redemption ever in this character's future, but not even from a redemption arc. But is there like another side that we see to Homelander because of this? Or
100%. You know, I think in the absence of Stillwell and you know, where we ended up at the end of season 1, he found out he's got a son, and of course Homelander's ego is pretty epic, and I think his genetic ego is spiked, and I just keep thinking it's like the worst thing to come out in the middle of COVID, because there's some terrible parenting tips coming up for all these parents with kids that can't go back to school. It's like, don't watch it. Don't get any tips from Homelander about parenting, because as much as, you know, it is a challenging new side for the character, but he's pretty inept at dealing with anyone at all, really, but particularly you know, his flesh and blood, this little kid that really desperately needs a male role model. And, you know, again, it's another set of challenges. It's another way that this character in season 2 got pushed into these new areas where he's got to figure out how to cope. And without giving too much away, I mean, you know, there's very redemption is not something that I don't think redemption is something that Homelander's ever going to really go for, but it's a really complex relationship, and we did go all over the place with it, man. It's really interesting, actually. Even as even knowing what happens, when I was watching it back, I was like, oh wow, it's really interesting, because you don't necessarily, of course I've done it and I was there, but you don't see how it's been cut together, and you don't see how it fits in with the whole episode. And I keep coming back to this. I'm such a stereotypical actor today. I'm really excited for people to see it. I'm sorry, I'm full of loving cliches.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, fans can't wait to see it. And, before we go, since season 1 kind of kicked off, I mean, and The Boys has been around in the comics and everything like that. But, of course, the show really introduced it to a new audience. And Boys 2 has that kind of other crowd also coming in. So since then, Reddit threads and Twitter threads have been full of, well, Homelander could destroy Superman, or Homelander could destroy Hulk, or this and that, so right? Funny. It's this huge, like, you've become a character in a toy box that someone is like throwing up against another character. So if Homelander faces Superman and faces Hulk, how does he win?
I don't know. It'd be a hell of a fight. First of all, that'd be like McGregor versus Mayweather, wouldn't it? But the real super fight. I think the reason that it could swing Homelander's way is because he's not ethically challenged and morally upright in the same way that Superman is. He would be the dirty fighter that would the sand in the eyes or dirt in the face sort of fighter that would just basically
the Ric Flair.
Anything to win, grab a couple of kids for hostages and then just exploit any advantage. But I think good old Superman, he's hamstrung by his value system, which I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it?
Right.
It'd be a lot of broken buildings, a lot of rubble, and a lot of lasers. So it'd be worth entertaining the idea, wouldn't
it? Very much so. So no parenting book, no cookbook, but Superman versus Homelander, we're down for it. That rocks.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, that fight, because it would stimulate the economy, it'd get people working again. There'd be so much construction after they fought, wouldn't there? Every building in town
never thought about that.
Down, man. You'd have to rebuild the country from ground up.
We'll have to see Man of Steel in a whole new way from this point on. That's
exactly.
And a comedy stimulus. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I know you got to run, so can't wait to see season 2 of The Boys. And of course, everyone can catch all of our coverage on The Boys season 2 on comicbook.com.